Welcome to my YouTube channel, guys. Very excited to have you here. I am Michael Martin, and I'm a loan officer in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've got an amazing team that is here to support our buyers and our realtor partners through the home buying process. So we're going to talk about those types of things today. In fact, today we're going to speak literally about I'm thinking about buying a home and what happens from that moment all the way to actually closing and moving into your new house. So if you've been thinking about purchasing a home, stick around. This video is for you. All right, so you're thinking about buying a house. What the heck do I do? What's the first step? And so I think really the first step is what you've already done, right? Actually thinking about purchasing a home. So many people fall into the trap of rent and continue to pay rent forever. And at the end of the day, you're making a mortgage payment when you're renting. You're just making your landlord's mortgage payment instead of your own. So really the first step is thinking, I want to do something other than rent. I recently was talking to my mom, who actually introduced me to her step nephew. And he just graduated high school, and she wanted me to talk to him about buying a home at 18 years old. He actually has a really good job lined up. And so I had a conversation with him about what that looks like, right? Because so many young people, heck, even folks in their 30s and 40s that haven't purchased a home really have no idea what's involved. So we're going to talk about that right now. So again, the first step is thinking about purchasing a home. Now, obviously, if you're thinking about purchasing a home, you have to know that you need credit, established credit. We're going to talk more about that. You need to have some money in the bank or access to money in the bank. And you need to have some sort of income source, right? You've got to have some sort of income source to be able to pay this mortgage loan back. And so all those things go into the qualifying of a mortgage loan. So step number 2 is really getting an understanding of all the things that you're going to be running into. So there are a lot of terms that are involved in real estate that you want to get a good understanding of. There are things like down payment. There are things like due diligence, earnest money, when you're going to close. All these things that are written into a contract, you're going to want to get educated from both a real estate agent as well as a great mortgage lender. Step number 3 is actually figuring out what you're qualified for. So that's when you talk to someone like me, a loan officer, that is established in your market. Here in North Carolina, now I'm licensed in a few different states, but in North Carolina, we have something called due diligence, which is a fee that you actually write a check. When the offer is accepted, you write a check directly to the seller. There's also earnest money. Now I'm going to explain the difference really quick. Earnest money is a check typically written to the closing attorney. They're going to hold that money if you decide to back out of the contract prior to a due diligence date, which is also negotiated in the contract, then you'll get your earnest money back. But for any reason or no reason at all, if you do not move forward with the purchase of the property, once you've written that due diligence check to the seller, it doesn't matter if the house doesn't appraise, it doesn't matter if there's an absolute crappy inspection, it doesn't matter literally for any reason, you will never get that due diligence money back until you go to closing. So if you close, you get credit for that. If you don't close, you lose it. Now, up until 2020, it really didn't matter a whole lot about due diligence because in most contracts it was $500, maybe $1,000. Now nobody wants to lose $500 or $1,000, but it's not the end of the world. After 2020, after the COVID frenzy in the real estate market went absolutely nuts, due diligence in North Carolina was one of the ways that people separated their offer from another. Now you got to remember in 2020, 2021 especially, and probably the first half of 2022 in our market, due diligence, there were literally 30 to 40 to 50 offers on almost every property. And due diligence got to be insane. It literally went from $5,000 to $20,000 to $50,000. I actually had a client that wrote a $175,000 due diligence check on an $800,000 property. They get credit for that at closing, but if you back out, you literally would lose $175,000. Now, that is crucially important. It's important to note that in every market, that due diligence is going to sway up or down, based on really the competitiveness in that market. So in today's market, right, we're in the middle of July in 2024. In today's market, really the average due diligence varies anywhere from a couple $1,000s to 40 or 50,000. If you're in a multiple offer situation, that number goes up dramatically to compete. So that's just one or two of the terms that you're going to be learning about. We'll do a video in the future to talk about all the terms that you're going to need to understand, but that gives you a really good idea of just a few things as you're looking to learn more about the home buying process. So step 3 is getting qualified, right? Getting pre-approved. Now there's a big talk or debate about what's important. Do I get pre-qualified or do I get pre-approved? Most lenders actually kind of throw those terms around, or even agents do as well. The real difference between the two is we've documented or verified your documents in a pre-approval versus a pre-qualification. So a pre-qualification, I can literally ask you your income, ask you your debts, ask you your credit score, and then write a pre-qualification letter based on that. Where a pre-approval, I've pulled a credit report, we've gathered your income documents, whether it's pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, 1099s. We've looked at your bank statements, so we actually know that you have all the income, that there's no challenges or issues with that income as we go to actually put the loan through processing and underwriting. It is very crucial, in my opinion, that you get pre-qualified. It is very crucial, in my opinion, that you get pre-approved versus pre-qualified unless you have the ability to write a check for the house. Most people do not in that case, so it's really important because you don't want to think that you could buy a home and then actually the loan officer asks you additional questions as you're going through the real approval process with the underwriting team, and then find out that you can't, right? Because that due diligence that we talked about earlier is gone if that happens. So once you get pre-approved, at that point, then you should be able to know exactly what the numbers are going to look like so that you can go shopping for a home. So in the pre-approval process, it's really important that the loan officer explain a price range, a payment range, and then the cash needed for down payment, closing costs, setting up an escrow account. Again, we'll talk more about those terms later. But setting up an escrow account as well as home inspections so that you have a really clear idea of what it's going to take from cash out of pocket to move into a home. So now that you're pre-approved and you're ready to go house shopping, it's the most fun part is going out looking at the houses. I think that's why half the realtors become realtors out there, is because they just love looking at homes. So you get to go with your real estate agent that you trust and go start searching for homes. Now your home search doesn't start out on the road, it starts online, right? You're gonna be looking at a lot of different homes from the listings that the agent sends you based on the criteria that you have both spoken about. It's gonna meet your price range, it's gonna meet the square footage that you're looking for, it's gonna meet whether you want garages or not, whether you're looking for city or rural, a lot of different details, the number of bedrooms, the yard, all those different things are going to go into the criteria, and then you're going to find out what, as things come available on the market, what fits your criteria. You're going to look at them online, determine whether someone kind of meets the test or passes the test of what you think you'd like to move into and buy. Remember, this is going to be a home that you're going to live in, maybe raise a family in. Super, super important. Now, once you go looking at those properties, at some point you're going to find a property that you're ready to make an offer on. And so that's when the kind of fun part, but also the nervous part comes in, because you're going to start negotiating. There's a big difference as a home buyer if you were to buy in a buyer's market versus a seller's market. There's something in between. We call it more of a neutral market. I don't think there's such thing as a normal market because things are always moving in and out. But a buyer's market is when you have more than 6 months worth of inventory on the market, right? So that means there's 6 months worth of supply out there. A seller's market is when you have less than 3 months worth of inventory. A neutral market is obviously that 3 to 6 months worth of inventory. We have been mostly in a seller's market for quite some time, probably the last 6 years, right? We were in a very serious buyer's market from 2008 to 2012. At that point in time, homes were sitting on the market sometimes for over a year. And as a buyer, you had a lot of choices, a lot of decisions you could make. Right now, for the most part, homes are on the market and then off in less than 30 days. And sometimes if they're priced right and it's in a great rate neighborhood, probably going to go very quickly even in the first weekend with multiple offers. As you're making an offer, if you're the only one to make an offer, it gives you a lot more leverage, right? Because the seller is looking to sell, you want to buy, but you don't necessarily have to buy at that list price. You might come in under list price. If you are a buyer in a seller's market where there's fewer homes to look at and more buyers than there are sellers, then you're going to probably have to pay over list price for that home. So that's really crucial and important to understand. So you found a property, you're ready to move forward on a property. Step number 5 is actually making an offer. Now, when you make an offer, you're generally going to do that with the help of a buyer's agent. It is crucial that you work with someone that is very experienced, that can help negotiate this for you. There are a ton of inexperienced agents. By the way, there's a ton of real estate agents that have been doing this for 20 years that are also inexperienced. They just haven't had many transactions. So important thing as you're talking to real estate agents is, have they worked with a lot of buyers if you're looking to buy a home? If you're looking to sell a home, you want to know if they've sold a lot of houses. So as you're making the offer, the agent is going to help write this offer up. So you're going to fully understand the terms of what you're looking at. At this point, you should know roughly what that monthly payment is going to look like, how much cash you're going to need out of pocket for this specific home. And so that you should be comfortable with those numbers before you move forward. Because once you write the offer and you sign the buyer's agreement, or once you sign the offer to purchase, it's still an offer. The moment the seller accepts that by signing it on their half, it is now a contract. That is very crucial to understand because you are then obligated to perform on that contract. So if you don't buy the house, the seller has the potential to sue you. You clearly want to avoid that if at all possible. Again, once you write that due diligence check, it's never coming back to you until you close as a deposit, right? It's a non-refundable deposit. So you've written the offer. We're now waiting back to hear from the seller whether they're going to accept your offer or counter offer. All those are potentials. They can either refuse your offer, they can accept your offer, or they can counter offer. So for the sake of this video, we're going to assume they've accepted your offer. Once they've accepted your offer, right, here comes step number 6. You need to lock in and finalize your loan for the mortgage. There's a lot of other things that will happen, but most importantly, you're going to want to get in touch with your loan officer. You're going to want to figure out which exact program you're going to go with. There's a lot of other things you're going to determine too, whether you're going to pay points or not. And once you do that, you're going to lock in your interest rate. Your lender's going to disclose the loan to you. They're going to order the appraisal. Your real estate agent's going to get the inspection ordered. All these things are now set into motion to help move forward so that you can close on your new home. After you have locked in your loan, you're moving forward with the application. At that point, the loan officer and their team are going to work directly with you to get any additional documentation that's needed to satisfy the underwriter's requirements. So this can be a frustrating point, especially for first-time home buyers, if the loan officer hasn't done a thorough job up front. And sometimes you're going to communicate with the loan officer on a regular basis, sometimes daily, but certainly usually a few times a week, whether it's the loan officer or the processor on the loan. The processor works directly typically with the client and the underwriter, kind of the go-between to make sure that the underwriter has all those. Now, what the heck is an underwriter? A lot of people actually do wonder that. An underwriter doesn't just approve the loan. There are guidelines or basically rules for every single type of loan out there, whether it's a conventional loan, a VA loan, USDA, jumbo, and every one of those loans has its own set of unique rules. The underwriter is an expert in all of those rules, and so they need to make sure that your income matches what the application said, and that it meets the guidelines and criteria for that particular loan, whether it's a conventional loan or otherwise. And so that's what the underwriter does. They're just determining that what is on the application is actual what your income is or your assets are, and then it again meets the requirements of the lender. Step number 7 is when you get loan approval or final loan approval and you're getting clear to close. Like you are ready, there's no more documentation that's needed from the lender. You've already gone through the inspection process, you're okay, or negotiated any repairs that needed to be made with the seller. The appraisals come in at no issues or has, and you've negotiated that out. All these things are finalized, and now it's just a matter of going to the closing table at some point in time that's set up in the future. Now, when you wrote the offer, one of the things you were also negotiating is a close date. So as that close date approaches, clearly you're going to be packing and getting ready for the big move. The last step is closing date. And the closing date is obviously really crucial. You're going to be going to the closing attorney, at least here in North Carolina, we use closing attorneys. Some other states use title companies. But here in North Carolina, closing attorneys are the folks that basically manage all the funds and then disperse all the funds. So they accept all the funds, whether it's from the lender, from the homeowner, right? Whatever cash you need to bring to closing, you're going to wire to the attorney's office, typically a couple days prior to closing. The attorney's going to accept all that. They're going to get the loans from the lender. Excuse me, they get the funds directly from the lender. So they've got all the monies, and then they're going to disperse all these things after closing and everything is recorded. So you've signed the documentation. The attorney has answered any questions you have about the loan docs or about purchasing the home, and then they will record that document with the record of deeds in the county that you're purchasing in. And at that point, the keys can be handed over to you and you get to move into your new home. And this is obviously something to celebrate. You want to make sure, right, this is a big deal for most people when you buy a house. Whether it's your first house or your 10th house, buying a house and closing is a really big deal. And so at that point, you're going to be moving forward and you get to move in, you get the movers, or you get your friends with some pizza and beer and you move into your house and get everything set up. And now you get to start the dream has now become a reality of home ownership. And this is the really, really important, crucial part of building wealth here, specifically in America. When you stop paying rent and you start paying yourself, that is how you create real wealth. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave some comments. Leave those questions here in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the future videos that we have coming forward for you. Again, I hope this has been helpful to you. My name is Michael Martin, and I hope to catch you in the next video.